We've seen all types of rivalries over the years, but none come close to Conor McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. And it came down to two men who couldn't have been more different. One built his entire career on trash talk, money fights, and becoming the biggest star the sport has ever seen, while the other barely said a word and just quietly mauled everyone in front of him.
Smash me, mate! Smash me! Yeah, smash me! You say send location. Here it is, right here in front of you.
It was about religion, family, nationality, things that are supposed to be off limits, and it all ended in chaos.
And now Khabib jumps the fence. Whoa! No! And he's going right at Dylan Dennis.
But here's the thing, that night, the one everybody remembers for the chaos that spilled out of the octagon wasn't even the ugliest part of this whole feud. It was just the breaking point. Because for years before that, Conor and Khabib were on a collision course. Their paths kept crossing over and over again, going from quite mutual respect all the way to the darkest, most personal trash talk the sport has ever seen.
If that bus door had have opened, this man would be dead right now. He would be in a box and I would be in a cell.
So this is the full story of the biggest rivalry in the history of mixed martial arts. While Conor and Khabib were the same age and rose through the ranks in parallel, their careers and their personalities couldn't have been more different. McGregor first laced up a pair of gloves at 13, and in his early life he had to learn how to balance the dream of becoming a champion with the shattering reality of being the son of a working-class family in Crumlin.
I ended up getting a trade as a plumber. 5 o'clock in the morning I was on that M50. I used to have to walk to the N4. About half an hour from my house, wait for some Limerick guy that I didn't even know. He'd drive on the M4 and I'd have to flag him down. Nightmare, yeah. 2 hours down on the M50, 2 hours back. Literally 14-hour days, and I was the first year, so I had to go and do everything. I had to go to the shop, I had to go and get this and get that. So I always had trouble with that, and I was like, this isn't for me.
While far from coming from money, Khabib was essentially bred into combat from the cradle. His father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, was a seasoned army veteran who taught sambo and hand-to-hand combat to groups of approximately 150 soldiers every 3 months before they were deployed to Afghanistan in the 1980s. And back in Dagestan, he was a local legend, a multiple-time judo, sambo, and wrestling champion who was even inducted into the Russian Book of Records as the most successful combat sambo coaches in the country.
My father, they have like he have old school mind, old school discipline, and of course sometimes I didn't understand him, but I all the time follow him.
So while Conor had to move mountains to chase his dream, going from manual labor to even welfare, Khabib was practically born into it. And the differences didn't stop there. Their fighting styles couldn't be more different. In fact, each fighter's strength lies exactly where the other is weakest. Conor, a long sniper with incredible one-punch knockout power, has always struggled with grappling. Meanwhile, Khabib was an excellent wrestler who was known for having a clunky and stiff stand-up game, especially in his early years. And while it's easy nowadays to say McGregor and Nurmagomedov were always the yin to each other's yang, hindsight can be 20/20. Because believe it or not, at first they were actually cordial to one another. Their first public interaction was backstage at UFC 178, where Conor competed against Dustin Poirier. McGregor was on his way to becoming a superstar of the sport. Meanwhile, Khabib, though more low profile, had just beaten Rafael dos Anjos a few months earlier and looked to be on track for the belt. They were both rising prospects, being in completely different weight classes, one at featherweight and the other at lightweight. There wasn't really a reason for any rivalry just yet, but the early signs of friction between the two of the division's brightest prospects at 155 and below didn't take much to explode, because it was only a matter of time before things took a turn for the worse. And speaking of time, take a second to subscribe. Every video takes hours of care, and your support means the world. While Khabib's peak would still take years to come, Conor did not waste any time whatsoever in making his mark on the sport. Both fighters cemented themselves as contenders in one of the UFC's most exciting eras. By around 2013, some of the sport's biggest stars were either retiring or slowing down. And filling the shoes of legends like GSP and Anderson Silva would certainly be a tough task, a task that Conor fulfilled almost by himself.
I'm the world champion.
Following the Poirier win, McGregor was on his way to becoming the face of MMA. Dennis Siver, a longtime featherweight veteran, would be a difficult task for any normal prospect, but the Irishman was anything but ordinary.
Let me just say about Conor McGregor a couple things. He is an excellent fighter. You know, and I mentioned this on Twitter. We always talk about, oh, he's a big mouth and he got this because of that, he got this because of that. And maybe all that's true. Maybe he did get where he is because he has a big mouth and people from his country love him. Maybe all that's true. Even if it is true, that's got nothing to do with the fact that that dude can fight. He can really, really, really fight. He is a very good fighter.
He made short work of his opponent that night, and the UFC didn't take long to put him in title contention. Up next, McGregor was originally scheduled to jump straight into a title shot against Jose Aldo, but an injury only 2 weeks before the event changed everything. Two-time title challenger Chad Mendes stepped in on short notice to face him, and the two athletes would compete for the interim belt. In many ways, it was an even more interesting match. By then, everyone already had a grasp of just how good McGregor was with distance management and striking, and Mendes, a wrestler through and through, brought a completely new set of problems, ones we hadn't really seen Conor face before.
When I look at Conor, I see dollar signs in my bank account. You know, Conor, I match up horrible for this guy. Conor, do you know what wrestling is?
I can rest my balls on your forehead.
Yeah, I know.
Despite being a replacement fight, the organization more than made up for it. UFC 189 was epic. The co-main event was none other than the single most violent fight in many fans' memories, Robbie Lawler versus Rory McDonald 2. The main event featured live performances of Sinead O'Connor and Aaron Lewis, which was one of the rare instances where the UFC allowed live music to headline the last fight of the night.
All the production elements, Sinead O'Connor and whoever the Stained guy was, it was
Aaron Lewis.
Whatever. It was the single greatest spectacle that I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, I can't really articulate how incredible it was just to be able to experience that. Being in that arena, in that atmosphere, around all those Irish fans, that was just one of the most memorable experiences that I've ever had in this business, and I will never ever forget this night.
And the fight delivered, massively. The Notorious was finally taken down and tested, but while he spent most of the first round on his back, he was able to survive until the bell rang. And when the second round opened, Mendes, whether from the short notice call, the adrenaline of headlining the biggest event of his life, or simply Conor's relentless bodywork, began to gas out. Smelling blood in the water, the Irishman put his foot on the gas, battering his opponent with strikes to win his first ever UFC championship belt. That night, the world got to meet Conor McGregor, the biggest star that the sport had witnessed. But an interim belt wouldn't suffice. He now had his eyes set on Jose Aldo, and the very next chapter of the story revealed the first spark of the rivalry with Khabib. Soon enough, everything would come crashing down. The UFC knew the star power potential in McGregor, and with that in mind, they played their hand just right. They booked a world tour just for his press conferences, had him appearing on multiple late-night shows, and made sure the world knew who Conor was. But here's the catch. Scheduled to face him, Jose Aldo was far from a stepping stone. The Brazilian was as close to technical perfection as we've seen, riding an 18-fight win streak that included 10 title bouts, stretching back to his WEC days.
Jose Aldo, my immediate reaction to all of this is Jose Aldo, obviously, if not the best featherweight, certainly in the conversation as the best featherweight of all time. Best featherweight title winning streak in featherweight history, right? Or I should say best title winning streak in featherweight history. WEC pioneer.
Despite having one of the strongest resumes ever, one thing was pretty clear. It was the McGregor show. Aldo and everyone else were just tagging along for the ride.
Go ahead, kid.
McGregor, how long is it going to take you to rip his head off?
It will be done in one.
While fans of the sport knew just how difficult beating Aldo should have been, the media and the broader public were already treating it as a foregone conclusion. Even before the fight actually happened, a lot was speculated about what Conor's next move would be, whether he'd give the Brazilian a rematch or would he move up to 155. And it was at one of these events that, for the first time, McGregor and Khabib were mentioned as potential opponents.
Who exactly are you going to go up and take the belt from at 155?
Whoever has it.
Who do you predict is going to have it? I think Khabib will get the lightweight belt.
By then, his prediction made complete sense. Khabib was steamrolling through the division, dominating guys like Pat Healy and RDA with relative ease. So much so that naming the best lightweight in the world was nowhere near being a foregone conclusion. Benson Henderson had just lost the title to Anthony Pettis. As exciting as Pettis was back then, the lightweight division was anything but stable. Fighters like Gilbert Melendez, Eddie Alvarez, and even Rafael Dos Anjos looked just as likely to beat him on any given night. So, with Nurmagomedov coming up looking like a world beater, many considered him to be the next to rule the 155 division, and the respectful yet challenging nod from the biggest name in the sport didn't go unnoticed. Only a few days later, Khabib responded to Conor, talking about what would happen if the two ever fought.
Conor McGregor said that if he wins at 145 pounds, he wants to move up to 155. What do you think?
No, you know, I like Conor McGregor, but he come 155, for me need to smash him, no problem. He's striking guy, I like him. I think he can beat Jose Aldo, maybe finish him, but a lot of people think Jose Aldo beat him, but my opinion, I think he kill him. But if he come 155, welcome.
Do you like his trash talk?
I don't know. You know, his trash talk is no bad, and he know how make money, everything, and 5-0 in UFC, 4 finish, and you know, these guys know easy money. But if he come 155, welcome. No problem.
Both of them were finally being put in the mix as potential opponents, but things were still far from turning sour. The rivalry, if we could even call it that at that time, lived only in the competitive realm, but talks of that potential super fight would soon lose momentum. While one of them went on to conquer the world, the other came dangerously close to giving it all up. If you're an MMA fan, you're likely well aware of how the Aldo fight panned out. By today's standards, that was one of the sport's most unforgettable moments.
The fact that Aldo was so hell-bent on destroying Conor, he just was hell-bent, and Conor took advantage of that.
It was an immediate.
Timing.
Remember that? It was like, here we go, big fight. And there was like, what? It's over immediately?
Smart.
Yeah,
it's like when
genius.
Nate slaps somebody and then...
It was genius. But this was a powerful punch. Look at that. Boom, bang, bang. But first of all, you got to realize it's perfectly placed.
Yeah,
the
it's placement.
Accuracy's impeccable. Second of all, some people can just crack.
Aldo, the greatest featherweight in history by then, lasted only 13 seconds in the cage with McGregor. If the Irishman was popular before, he then became a global phenomenon, and his very next move would be an immediate shot at the 155 title. But when Conor went up to lightweight, Khabib was nowhere to be found. When the Dagestani beat Rafael Dos Anjos in April 2014, he was very close to reaching championship status. But as luck would have it, his career took a significant detour.
I broke my leg, like I have ACL surgery. After that, Dos Anjos become champion. You know, after like 8 months, 9 months, no, 1 year. We fight April, then March, he become champion after like 11 months. And I try to come back, I turned one more time ACL and one more surgery. I try to come back, I broke my ribs. After that, I tried to come back. I have my surgery on my back.
No fighter was able to beat him, yet a significant string of setbacks kept him out of the conversation for quite some time. And at the same time, McGregor was set to challenge the Brazilian champion RDA. So while Khabib did his best to recover from serious injuries, Conor was on track to make history as the first athlete to ever hold 2 UFC belts at the same time. And even when RDA pulled out with a broken foot, McGregor somehow found himself in an even bigger fight.
First, you go to the guys who've been screaming for rematches. You go to Jose Aldo, Frankie Edgar, both wanted the fight, and both guys turned the fight down. Then you look at guys in the top 5, Ferguson and Khabib, they're both set to fight. We already gave that fight to Fox, so they're out. Then we call Nate Diaz. He's in and wants to fight, but you know, Nate can be a little difficult.
The Nate Diaz chapter did nothing but elevate Conor's stock. Stockton's finest managed to shake up the world in their first encounter, prompting Diaz to become a star in his own right. The clash of personalities between them provided some of the most memorable and funny moments we've ever seen.
Snitches in Stockton. Never heard of Stockton in my life.
Yeah.
Canaries in Stockton, yeah? Sing like little canaries,
Why
I
you
heard.
calling people gazelles too? You got the weakest, lamest lineup of training partners I ever even heard of.
I'm just looking at your little frame.
Yeah.
And it just reminds me of an injured gazelle.
Yeah.
Strapped up.
People don't know
Take
what
your
that
top
means.
off. Take your
no
top
one knows
off.
what that means. It's
Take
in
your
America.
top off. Take your top off. You little fat skinny.
Yeah, right. No one knows what gazelle is anyway. It's America. Get it right.
Thanks, fellas! Losing the first fight turned out to be quite the learning experience. In the rematch, McGregor came back stronger and was able to edge the unanimous decision win. This chapter, which was initially intended as just a brief detour, ended up taking longer than expected. Sure, the first loss wasn't part of the plan, but by the end of this chapter in his life, Conor cemented himself as an even bigger draw than he was beforehand. In 2016, when talking about the biggest names across all sports, McGregor was always in the mix. Around the same time, Khabib was finally able to come back. A 2-year layoff went by, and he was finally ready to come back against Daryl Horcher. Initially, he was supposed to face Tony Ferguson in one of the many scheduled bouts between the two that eventually fell off. It was Horcher's first UFC fight, and probably one of the hardest debuts anyone had in the organization. Nurmagomedov finished his opponent inside 2 rounds, setting back the clock and putting himself right back into contention. And at first glance, this appeared to be the next logical step. Khabib signed not 1, but 2 contracts to face the 155-pound champion Eddie Alvarez for UFC 205. If by merit alone, the shot would certainly be his. He was 24-0 with 7 wins in the organization, but excellence alone wouldn't cut it, especially when the other option is the single most popular fighter of all time.
UFC sent me 2 contracts, and you never talk about this. Why?
You know why?
Why?
The answer is, as you know, you were
I don't
used
know.
as a pawn in that game, and you know that's the truth. And I said that to you, and I said that to your management team, that you were being used.
So Conor, fresh from his revenge against Nate Diaz, got the opportunity to become the first ever double champion. And Khabib, despite being offered the chance to fight for that same belt, was pushed down to the prelims where he faced Michael Johnson. Win streaks alone wouldn't suffice. It was still the McGregor show all along. And if Khabib were ever to get his shot, he'd need to make a statement. Turns out, that's exactly what he did. If UFC 205 were to be summarized in one sentence, it would be the McGregor Celebration Day. For years, the UFC invested millions into this one single asset, and for Conor's merit, he continued to challenge the norm and back all the talk he did. So his fight against Alvarez and the chance to become the first to hold 2 belts at the same time would be the grand coronation of Conor McGregor. But he already had even greater plans.
When I take that guy's belt, I'm looking around, I don't know what anyone else has for me around here. I might have to jump up and drag Floyd Mayweather out bed and see what the he's at again.
Meanwhile, Khabib was set to face Michael Johnson in that same event, and at the time, he did not hide his discontent with the fact that he got lowballed out of a title fight.
I talk with Dana between every rounds. I talk with him, I say, hey, don't send me no more your fake contract. I need real contract.
One odd thing about the event was that despite one man fighting for the belt and the other buried on the prelims, UFC 205 always seemed to revolve around Conor and Khabib. In the weigh-ins, we saw the first real altercation between the two.
Please, gentlemen, please. No, it's okay. Let's go. Gentlemen, let's go. Come on, guys. Fuck this guy. Fuck this motherfucker.
But they weren't each other's opponents. First, Khabib would have to go through Johnson, but when the cage closed, the Dagestani wasn't just fighting one man. That night, he fought Dana White, McGregor, and the entire UFC. Johnson was just there to take the beating.
Khabib, in between rounds, he was sitting down screaming at me, "Give me that belt! Now you know I'm the best." I'm like, how about you finish this fight first and then we'll talk? Every round screaming at me after the fight. So I got a feeling if he doesn't get a title shot, I'm going to get my ass kicked. So I'll talk to him and we'll figure it out.
Khabib made a statement. He obliterated his opponent and did precisely what he needed after being neglected by the promotion. And later that night, McGregor would go on to make history. And that he did, with incredible ease. Up until that point, all of his past opponents offered him some danger. Mendes with a wrestling threat, Diaz with his elite BJJ, even Aldo landed a clean right hand before getting knocked out. Alvarez, on the other hand, appeared to have nothing for McGregor from the get-go.
It was almost bizarre. It's almost bizarre how good Conor is.
Right?
Almost bizarre. The way he picked apart Eddie Alvarez. Almost bizarre.
And
like magical. That's almost the word I want to use.
Correct.
Like he touches motherfuckers with that left hand. Have you ever seen Eddie Alvarez just get, like, they didn't even look like they were in the same planet. Like, one guy looked like he was from Mars. The other guy looked like he was just a normal dude trying to figure it out.
Well, it looked like Eddie, the moment he got hit, was like, what the fuck?
You could see on his face, he was like, holy but Jesus, what am I doing here? And then he goes, well, all right, he's not very good at wrestling. Let me try this wrestling. And Conor's like, that was your shot? Oh, bro, you're in for a long night.
Everything went precisely according to plan for him. He achieved what legends of the sport never dared to, becoming the first to hold 2 UFC belts. And yet, Khabib's performance was an annoying reminder that the likely best lightweight in the world was competing in the prelims. The next logical step seemed like a fight between the two. But what the UFC never accounted for was the fact that McGregor had simply grown too big for the organization. At the time, holding 2 UFC titles was a big deal. Sure, the UFC eventually beat that horse to death, tossing double champ shots around like they were Target coupons, but at the time, it was unheard of. Some of the biggest names in the sport up until that point weren't granted the same opportunity. GSP, Anderson, Chuck Liddell, and even Jones were still one-division champs. McGregor, on the other hand, despite never defending either of his belts, reached the pinnacle of MMA achievements.
It feels great. It feels familiar. I saw it so clearly. I swear to God, I saw it so clearly, so consistently, until it's here in reality.
He was at the peak of his popularity. Every time he stepped into the cage, he seemed to break attendance and pay-per-view records. Every press conference would get millions of views on YouTube. Deep down, he had taken the sport of MMA by storm. Fans either hated or loved him. It reached a point that up-and-coming fighters started copying his style both inside and outside the cage.
I already got like people hitting me up on Twitter and blah 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 saying I'm trying to be like Conor, man. Conor, I ain't trying to be like none of that. If anything, he trying to be like me.
Football had Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo, basketball had Kobe and LeBron, boxing had Canelo, Pacquiao, and Mayweather, and MMA, well, let's just say Conor stood head and shoulders above the rest. But this comparison has one small caveat. Pacquiao, Messi, no one doubted they were the best at what they did. But with McGregor, there was always a shadow cast over his championship. As long as Nurmagomedov was around, no one could ever truly claim that Conor was the best fighter in the division.
After this fight, don't send me your bullshit fake contract. Don't send me real contract. I wanna beat your son. And he talk about, oh, please finish your fight. Say, don't worry about this. You know I am already deserve this. And after first round, I talk with him. After second, no, after when fight finish. But I know Dana and Conor wanna talk trash talking, but I wanna talk real talk. You know, this is between me and these 2 bullshit guys.
But while Khabib was more than deserving of a title shot, that potential bout offered McGregor little to gain and everything to lose. Nonetheless, he was as big as any fighter had been. So big, in fact, that he was no longer interested in negotiating pay-per-view points with the UFC. At that point, Conor was asking for company ownership and demanding a seat at the table. Throwing that position of power away to face one of the best wrestlers in the division would have been pretty stupid.
Why do you think he wouldn't take the fight?
Because you know this, I think. What do you think? He take wrestling guy, one of the toughest wrestling guy, or he take striking guy? What do you think? I think, of course, he take easy fight. Maybe he fight one more time with Diaz and make money, easy fight. Why he need somebody grab him, smash him, like make him flat, take him down? He's smart guy. You agree with me?
But as we would later find out, Conor's MMA career would reach a standstill because a crossover fight with Floyd Mayweather was on the table. That bout alone allowed McGregor and Dana White to make millions, and that dynamic duo did not waste any time.
Did Floyd not take out his own jets?
Floyd's got 3.
So
Floyd's got the one that he got, and he got 2
tax
others.
problems. That's what he's got.
In August 2017, an entire year after his last performance, it was time to dust off the ring rust. The boxing match against Mayweather proved a tremendous success. Conor, working with the UFC, made over $100 million for that fight. Despite losing by TKO, his stock didn't go down at all, as he was able to hang in there with one of the best for 10 rounds. To this day, it remains the second highest selling pay-per-view in combat sports, with a jaw-dropping 4.3 million sales. But here's the catch: McGregor made more money that night than most UFC fighters would see in their entire careers.
How difficult or how easy will it be to go back to MMA afterwards? Because you are going to earn an extraordinary amount of money for this.
Ooh, say it again.
You're going to earn an extraordinary amount of money.
One more time.
an extraordinary amount of...
So if he seemed disinterested in continuing to compete with the best in MMA before, now as a multi-millionaire, his UFC career might as well have reached its end. Khabib and the rest of the lightweights even tried to move on without him. The organization was still hesitant to strip its biggest star, but even so, they were still ready to honor Khabib's title shot aspirations. He was initially scheduled to face Tony Ferguson at UFC 209 for the interim belt, but last-minute complications from a brutal weight cut once again shattered his championship dreams.
You're in a weight cutting situation that he's in. I think he got within 6 pounds. And, you know, it's never good if you're doing it wrong and things are going bad. It's bad on your kidneys, it's bad on your liver, and it's just bad all the way around. He's doing better now. Obviously, he's okay, and he's going to be fine, but, yeah. It's never good.
Perhaps it was some sort of leprechaun curse, but the state of the lightweight division became a complete mess with Conor's absence. The 155-pound division was plagued by short-notice withdrawals and freak injuries, grinding its momentum to a halt and delaying any clarity on who the best fighter really was. Tony Ferguson managed to win the interim title a few months later by beating Kevin Lee. Meanwhile, Khabib had to beat another contender, Edson Barbosa, at UFC 219. With McGregor out of the picture, the only logical next step was to try to book the Ferguson fight once again, and this time it would be for all the marbles.
Conor's saying, maybe I'll come back in August, maybe I'll come back in September. Well, that's almost 2 years. It's not fair to the rest of the guys in the division. The division has to go on. You know, these guys have been, you know, fighting their whole career. Everybody wants to get to that pinnacle. And it's the fair thing to do. Listen, I mean, I take so much shit for how much I like Conor McGregor and everything else, but the division has to go on.
Everything seemed to be going according to plan, but while the world watched Conor make millions in boxing, the lightweight division descended into chaos. During the build-up to UFC 223, a story unfolded between Khabib and Conor's longtime training partner and friend, Artem Lobov. You see, Lobov, a fellow Russian, had been holding nothing back when speaking about Nurmagomedov.
Когда Khabib снимался уже 6 раз, он снимается, у него там чуть-чуть заболело, у него там в заднице или еще где-то, он снимается. Но один чемпион и выйдет несмотря ни на что, а другой секунд будет сниматься каждый раз. Так ему оплюх на улице где-нибудь, если попадется, могу надавать без проблем.
And when Khabib and Lobov came face to face in the week of the event, things got ugly very quickly.
Ты понял или нет, я тебя спрошу. Лицо скажи, лицо скажи. Ты говоришь, что ты говоришь. Как не говорю? Как не говорю, ты правильно говоришь. Больше не говори такие вещи.
At first, it seemed like just another altercation between fighters, but in time we would come to realize that this was the spark that ignited the feud between McGregor and Khabib's teams. Because when Conor took notice of how the Dagestanis had cornered and slapped Artem, he responded with full fury. The guy jumped on a private jet to New York the same day with only one thing on his mind. It is always hard to tell when fighters really have beef and when it's only promotional stunts. In fact, it's rather rare to see genuine hate fueling a rivalry in our sport. So when McGregor attacked a bus with a dolly, injuring fighters who had nothing to do with it and risking serious legal trouble just to get at Khabib, it became clear this was no ordinary feud.
Just tell me where, and that's it. Why you need to come here? Show up like you wanna fight or something like this. Send me a message, hey, come here, this place, and that's it. Without security, without UFC, without nothing.
The dolly incident alone was enough to cause significant changes to the UFC 223 card. Michael Chiesa and Ray Borg were both injured after the glass window exploded in their face, and Artem Lobov got cut due to his involvement in the incident. And only a few days earlier, the much-anticipated main event had already fallen through. Khabib versus Tony was the biggest fight the UFC could make, and one fans had been salivating over for years. They were easily the two most dominant forces in the division, and without Conor around, it was only fitting that they fought for the undisputed belt. But following a freak accident in which Tony tripped over camera wires and tore his ACL, the fight once again collapsed.
But how crazy is that? He tore his knee tripping over some wires.
And it was April 1st.
when the news came out about that.
Right.
And everybody's like, no, it's, swear to God, it's not an April Fool's joke.
The UFC rushed to get a replacement. They tried to book 145-pound champ Max Holloway, but only a few hours later, the commission barred him from competing. Al Iaquinta, far from being anyone's first option, stepped up nonetheless.
I just went downstairs and I at the time, Sean Shelby, he was not very happy with me. We had been arguing over. We had some words on the phone, maybe a month before that. So he was definitely not excited to see me, and I was just yelling at him from across the room. I was like, "Shelby, I'm your guy." He was just like this. He was like, "Oh God."
Against all odds, Khabib went on to fight for the belt that night. In a much more contested fight than everyone previously thought, Iaquinta managed to hang in there with Nurmagomedov for 5 rounds. Nonetheless, Khabib was finally awarded the undisputed 155-pound belt. He had to go through nearly 5 years battling injuries, neglect, and bad circumstances to finally achieve that goal. But that wasn't the biggest takeaway of the night, because the biggest feud in UFC history was already in motion. A saga so big that nothing could ever stop it. No one really knew what would happen after the Dolly incident. Conor seemed to be always ready to throw down with Khabib anywhere except the cage. Nevertheless, he had been inactive for over 2 years. At that point, he was already a multi-millionaire. He could very well retire if he wanted to. To pull him back, the UFC would have to do something big. And so, the organization put together the biggest fight in MMA history.
The fight is done. October, Las Vegas. It's on, ladies and gentlemen.
All of a sudden, the entire world would get to see the clash between two of the biggest names in the sport. Conor and Khabib's paths always overlapped with one another. From the early respect to the friendly yet challenging competitive banter, it always looked like one day the two would meet inside the octagon. And from a competitive angle alone, that fight should have happened years earlier. McGregor had skipped the line of the lightweight title, postponing Khabib's championship ambitions. And more than that, he later held the entire division hostage for years. That by itself would be enough to make any competitor bitter. But when adding the intense dispute between the two, the main event of UFC 229 took on an entirely new dimension.
At most important 6 October, I'm gonna talk with him. I'm gonna explain to him everything inside the cage.
As soon as it was announced, the vibes surrounding that fight felt different. The scheduled battle between the two men suddenly became a clash between fans and even nations. Even McGregor, who got popular for his harsh but always lighthearted trash talk, approached the fight with extreme seriousness.
I'm not here for the money. I wanted to compete those times. I missed the game back then, and that didn't happen. Obviously, the situation arose with this next opponent and my team, and it got a little bit more personal and a little bit more just a lot more personal, to be honest, and that's it. And now here we are on this one. So
the build-up to the fight was already monumental. Weeks before it even happened, reports speculated that UFC 229 would sell well over 2 million pay-per-views worldwide. In every corner of the world, people wanted to see the outcome of that bout. And as the week of the fight approached, things reached a boiling point. Conor's press conferences were always a spectacle of their own. From the earlier days with Aldo to the unforgettable back and forths with Diaz, everybody would tune in to see McGregor on the mic. And this time, it was no different, except for the stakes being a lot higher.
I came back for the love of this, to come and shut this man up. A little rat, a little weasel, a little hard man in groups. I've met many of them through my years. A man who grows in numbers, but on his own, and when confronted in a similar situation, cowers away. And that's what you saw with that little shite on the bus over there. He shit his jocks after doing something to his own countryman that had nothing got to do with anything. And that's it. I came back for the love of fighting and the love of war, and this I am going to truly love, putting a bad beating on this little glass jaw rat.
Up until that point, Conor had made a career out of messing with his opponent's psyches before their fights. In fact, many have speculated whether McGregor's mind games took a toll on his former foes, fighters like Alvarez, Aldo, and Mendez, who seemed to perform at a level below their usual. And leading up to the fight, everyone was wondering if the trash talk would have an effect on Khabib, who had never had to deal with so much blatant disrespect. Because Conor really tried every trick in the bag to get a reaction.
Proper 12 on me, hang joy. Here, hang joy, just let me give him. It's his birthday.
I'm gonna go like
yeah, shine the bus.
Fight.
Happy birthday,
like,
shine the bus.
I don't drink.
Why don't you drink?
I don't drink.
Why don't you drink?
I never drink.
I'll tell you some buzz at parties.
I never drink.
You mad backwards cunt. You're dead when I get my hands on you, do you hear me?
I never
You're
drink.
fucking dead.
I never drink.
I'll drink it. Me and the Irish Boston animal, Dana White, the OG of the fight game. He'll sup this bad boy.
I think it's gonna
gonna be long night for him.
The lead up to UFC 229 is widely considered the darkest and most personal trash-talking era in MMA history, because nothing, and I mean nothing, was off limits for McGregor that night. He insulted Khabib's honor, called his manager Ali Abdelaziz a rat, took jabs at his religion and even his family.
Conor had written an Instagram post about your dad calling him a coward. Did that affect you in any way?
Most important is 6 October. Now he can talk whatever he want. He gonna talk, I know. And 6 October is most important. For me, it's most important 6 October. When cage goes, we're gonna watch.
The Chechen people know what I'm talking about when I call this man a coward. When I called his father a quivering coward.
Which Chechen?
Him and Kadyrov were at a mosque together, and he posts a picture of Kadyrov on his Instagram site. Kadyrov is the Chechen dictator, a crazy man, don't get me wrong. But Khabib's father, lick arse oh fucking Houlihan, posts a picture of Kadyrov at this mosque, and Khabib's father posts a picture up, and the caption is "Together we are stronger." It's such fake respect out of fear. The Chechens know, the Chechen people know that if the tables were turned and there was an opportunity for his father to stab that man in the back, he would do it in a heartbeat to take over. And he did not do nothing. And that's why he is a quivering coward, because he showed fake respect out of fear. And that's where that came from.
Being Dagestani means that openly discussing politics, especially matters involving Chechnya or even President Putin, can be an extremely delicate affair. Because when it comes to those matters, the risks outweigh the rewards. There is everything to lose and almost nothing to gain. And McGregor made sure to weaponize that.
I never want to take picture with someone. Doesn't matter. It's president.
Are you disrespecting your president Vladimir Putin?
No, why not?
Are you disrespecting your president Vladimir Putin?
No.
Then what do you mean by that?
I don't want to take picture with.
What do you mean by that then? Explain what do you mean? Are you disrespecting your president?
Sit. I'm gonna explain. Okay.
Fake rat. Like I said, fake respect out of fear. That's all these men are known for. They were chased from their land. They were chased from their land to the edge of cliffs. My family, my bloodline, the McGregor clan, we stood and we fought. We fought the English Empire. So much so that our name was banished for 100 years by King James at the time.
Okay, why you guys change your language?
Shut your mouth.
You guys have your own language. What's wrong with you?
Eventually, he dug so deep that he finally hit a nerve. And from this moment forward, the rivalry took a darker turn. Competition took the backseat when Conor pointed to the murky connection between Khabib's family and Chechnya's leader, Ramzan Kadyrov.
Kadyrov is the Chechen dictator, a crazy man, don't get me wrong. But Khabib's father, lick arse oh fucking Houlihan, posts a picture of Kadyrov at this mosque, and Khabib's father posts a picture up, and the caption is "Together we are stronger." It's such fake respect out of fear. The Chechens know, the Chechen people know that if the tables were turned and there was an opportunity for his father to stab that man in the back, he would do it in a heartbeat to take over. And he did not do nothing. And that's why he is a quivering coward, because he showed fake respect out of fear.
The Nurmagomedovs have maintained a complex relationship with the Chechen head of state. They have received several gifts from the dictator, and some reports claim that Kadyrov has even helped fund Khabib's MMA career. As a political leader, he has even been targeted by the US government for crimes like embezzlement and even human rights violations. And when taking into consideration the sensitive relationship between Dagestan and Chechnya, their personal relationship can carry significant regional weight. Khabib did his best to disregard the political attacks and even pretended like he forgot how to speak English. Conor was really firing on all cylinders that night. Even the infamous manager Ali Abdelaziz wasn't spared.
Shut your mouth, Ali Abdelaziz, mad terrorist, terrorist snitch. I know a lot about you as well, you mad rat. I know a lot about you as well. You keep your mouth shut, kid. Let me take my picture. How's Noah? How's Noah, huh? Yeah, shut your mouth. Never speak about me. Ever in your life. Watch yourself around me, because you'll be out here quick.
Conor wasted no time, exposing what he claimed were dark chapters in Abdelaziz's life. He branded him everything from a terrorist to an informant, and even accused him of neglecting his own son, making the attack as personal as it could get. McGregor really amped up the mind games. The end result was the darkest and most significant press conference ever. Family, religion, and even geopolitics. Nothing was off limits that night, but now the time for talking was over.
Most important is 6 October. Now he can talk whatever he want. He gonna talk, I know. And 6 October is most important. For me, it's most important 6 October. When cage goes, we're gonna watch.
Up next, the two would have to settle it not with words, but with fists. MMA has had its share of big moments. Shogun's Pride, 2005 Grand Prix, Anderson vs. Belfort, the finale of the first season of The Ultimate Fighter, all defining moments that helped cement the sport's place in history. And yet none of those iconic moments even come close to the magnitude of Khabib vs. Conor.
UFC 229 was such an amazing event, and I knew that my heart would be beating out of my chest for parts of it. And it's just crazy to think that at one point my heart was beating at 112 beats per minute. That, yeah, it was just working harder than my body was working.
The night felt special from start to finish, but while fighters like Tony Ferguson and Derek Lewis carried the fun in the earlier fights, ultimately, it was all about the main event. The lightweight championship lineage would finally be settled as McGregor never lost his belt inside the octagon, so when he walked into the cage, the entire world stopped to watch. Khabib followed through, and in just a few moments, the biggest feud in MMA was about to reach its breaking point. To say tensions were high would be an understatement. Herb Dean could hardly contain each fighter from walking forward before the opening bell. Such was the intensity radiating from both corners. And then, finally, the fight began. McGregor came out fast, landing a few clean shots from the outside and forcing Khabib backward. But it lasted all of 20 seconds. That's all it took for the Dagestani to shoot his first takedown, and to the surprise of many, Conor defended it well.
They come out there and they fight, and Khabib goes right for the wrestling. And I can tell you guys as a wrestler how perfect Conor's defense was.
Ahead of the fight, Conor hadn't just prepared with his longtime BJJ coach Dylan Danis, he'd also brought in Sergey Pikulski, a former member of the Moldovan national wrestling team. He defended Khabib's initial single leg entry by hugging his waist and keeping a frame with his left leg, preventing the Dagestani from moving forward. For a split second, McGregor even ended up on top. If the fight played out like this throughout, it would be the best case scenario for him. Preventing the ground game would give him a clear advantage, as the consensus was that Khabib would stand little chance striking for 5 rounds with the longer and deadlier puncher. But that's not how it played out. Khabib kept pushing. He never really let go of Conor's leg. Using it to get back up to his feet, he was able to transition to a double leg, turning his opponent's hips and securing the first takedown of the fight. And giving up that first takedown with over 4 minutes left in the first proved to be the beginning of the end for McGregor.
Getting up from Khabib from my living room where I'm watching looks like a really hard thing to do. Khabib is doing stuff on top. Mousasi would get credit. Also, I can tell you this as a guy who likes to ground and pound. They are doing things, and I'm learning. Khabib is a master of trapping you there.
Conor was never known for having the best cardio, and spending the majority of the first round getting smothered by one of the most aggressive pressure wrestlers ever was bound to come at a cost. Even if he survived the round, which he did, coming in slower and weaker in the second meant standing little to no chance of stopping the next takedown. And although he took minimal damage that round, the odds were beginning to stack against the Irishman.
This is going to be something that we're just going to have to confront as a real, true, unadulterated weakness at this point. Conor McGregor has much better wrestling than I think some folks give him credit. Conor McGregor has much better cardio. Well, I should say he has much better commitment to being tired than I think folks give him credit. But in the end, if you can get him tired, he's just not the same.
So when the second round of the fight began, Conor looked just a little more phased. He no longer pressed forward as he had in the previous round, and every strike he threw carried a touch more desperation than the last. Sensing blood in the water, Khabib faked a level change and then came right back up with a massive overhand right. McGregor, likely too preoccupied with a looming takedown threat, ate that shot clean. He went down, sprang right back up, and found himself in a fistfight. But just as he got comfortable with the striking exchange, Khabib dipped again and took him down for the second time in the fight. Nurmagomedov was dominating the match, and this time he was finally ready to talk. While Conor managed to escape the first round without absorbing much damage, the second told a very different story. Khabib put him in the grinder this time, and when that second round ended, Conor looked defeated.
Stop! Hey, stop! Stop!
Hey!
It seemed like the end for the Irishman, but to everyone's surprise, McGregor came out strong in the next round. He started off pressuring and landing on Khabib. It was the best moment of the fight for him, but after 10 grueling minutes spent pinned to the canvas, his punches no longer carried the same pop. Khabib was also landing, but as far as wrestling goes, he found little to no success that round. We will never really know what happened in the third round. Maybe McGregor dug deep and found a second wind, or maybe Khabib simply took the round off for a breather. Point being, right then and there was Conor's last chance of coming out victorious, because when Khabib stepped into the fourth round, he looked set to end it. 1 minute in, they were already on the ground, and when Conor turtled up to get up, the Eagle was quick to snatch the back. 1 more minute went by. Conor tried to run away and escape from the mount, but Khabib locked in the fight-ending move. He snapped in what looked like a rear naked choke, but he wasn't even under the neck. From pure strength and pressure, he applied crushing force to Conor's jaw, leaving him no choice but to tap to the neck crank.
It's not necessarily a choke, but it chokes you, but it really feels like your fucking head's gonna pop off.
Right.
What he's doing is he's wrapping around the face, and you don't have to even go under the jaw. You can
Right.
get it on the chin, especially if you're as strong as Khabib. Then you clamp your hands together, and you're pressing your forearm against his back. So you've got this, and you get the forearm against his back, and you're doing this.
It's just
And
levers.
your fucking head is just like...
After all the build-up, all the trash talk, and all the commotion, the fight was finally over. But what none of us knew was that another one was about to begin. After beating McGregor, Khabib immediately set his eyes on another man, Dillon Danis, Conor's BJJ coach and good friend who had been talking all kinds of trash throughout the fight. Fueled by a rush of adrenaline and little common sense, Nurmagomedov jumped out of the cage, flying directly towards Danis.
One of Conor's guys was talking smack to Khabib, and Khabib just ran and dove over the octagon and went after him. While that was happening, two of Khabib's guys jump over the octagon and go after Conor.
All hell broke loose after the fight ended. Suddenly, we had fights breaking out outside the cage, while some of the Dagestani team members jumped inside the cage to get McGregor.
Hey, Zoop! Zoop! Hey!
Emotions erupted all across the arena. Fans started throwing things inside the cage and even fighting among themselves. Khabib had to be escorted out of the cage, and the ceremonial announcement of the victory never really happened. It was chaotic, violent, and come to think of it, a fitting end to the most heated rivalry in the history of the sport.
I know that during the build-up, he wasn't building a fight. He was just getting madder and madder and madder, and Conor's still just building a fight. So it just was kind of, they were on two different wavelengths. It's kind of all shit, you know, but the reality is, like, the guy that punched Conor, that was bad, man. He shouldn't have been in there to do that. You know, I can't condone that action. Conor hit Manop, and he had a black eye. He had a black eye. So he came to practice on Monday. I go, hey, he's what? What, brother, what? I said, Conor McGregor went upside your head, huh? He was mad at me because he had the biggest black eye. Conor got him with a good one. On the side of the octagon, exhausted, he got him with a good one because Manop had a big old black eye.
No one really knew what would happen after the melee. Both fighters were at risk of fines, suspensions from the commission, and even criminal charges. Khabib especially, as the man who started the brawl. But for Conor, the legal fallout was the least of his concerns. All that mattered in that moment was the harsh reality he had to face. He'd been beaten in the biggest MMA fight of his career.
The kid jumped in.
Fuck about that.
Huh?
I don't give a box about that. That was handbags.
I didn't see Khabib jumping over that. I didn't see that coming.
Who cares about that? That's handbags. And here goes B. And that's that.
Conor versus Khabib was the single most important fight in MMA, and from a business standpoint, it was the most lucrative event the UFC ever held. When it was all said and done, the feeling was that Khabib had managed to push back against the wave of disrespectful trash talk that had seemed to be only growing in the sport.
I know this is not my best side, you know, this is not my best side. You know, I'm human being, and like, I don't understand how people can talk about I jump on the cage, you know. What about he talk about my religion, he talk about my country, he talk about my father. He come to Brooklyn and he broke bus, he almost killed couple people. What about this? What about this shit? Why people talk about I jump over the cage? Why people still talk about this? Like, I don't understand. I am respect. my father teach me, hey, you have to be always respectful. My old team, where I'm training California 7 years, everybody know who I am. All my friends, like everybody who know me, they know who I am, you know. And I told you guys, these guys, not only him, his whole team and him, they tap machines. You know, I told you guys, when you put him wrong way, he gonna tap. You know, what happened today? Like, they call him two-time world champion, like 2 weight classes, but today he tapped.
But what would happen next was anyone's guess. McGregor had the star power to demand an immediate rematch, and given how profitable the fight was, the UFC would have moved heaven and earth to make it happen. But everything would have needed to fall perfectly into place. In hindsight, that was far too much to ask. After the brawl, Khabib was fined $500,000 and handed a 9-month suspension by the Nevada State Athletic Commission. McGregor himself didn't go unscathed. He was fined $50,000 and handed a 6-month timeout. All things considered, both fighters got off easy, as the potential penalties could have been far harsher.
My biggest issue is this. Conor McGregor should not get a fine 10 times less than Nurmagomedov. That's bogus. Because what Nurmagomedov is saying, provocation has to come into the equation. It's not a matter of whether you should fine him or not. It's not a matter of him saying he doesn't deserve to be fined. It's a matter of you saying that his behavior was so much worse than the instigator that was Conor McGregor.
The beef between them, albeit less intense, continued to live on. Conor, still reeling from his loss, continued to call out Khabib at every opportunity he could. However, the champion wasn't really entertaining the possibility of a rematch. At last, he was a champion, defending his title and building his own legacy. His goals seemed to be above money-making fights. Nurmagomedov wanted to go down as one of the best champions ever, and that seemed more attractive than a rerun with the McGregor show.
If we talk about money, this is good. If we talk about drama, this is good. If we talk about real lightweight contender or real lightweight championship fight, this is not good. This is not real lightweight championship fight. But if we talk about drama and money, of course, this is good. But I come here for show, for make my legacy.
And he was ready to back that up. Despite receiving the longer sentence, Khabib was the first to return. In September 2019, less than a year after UFC 229, Khabib faced Dustin Poirier in Abu Dhabi. He once again dominated his opponent, securing his second title defense. But at heart, that fight carried a meaning far greater than that. Khabib's dad, Abdulmanap, got to corner his son for the very first time in the UFC. As the years went by, getting a US visa to corner his son proved impossible, most likely because of his past ties with the Russian and Chechen military.
I told you guys, when I go to the cage with my father, I feel I go to the cage with the lion, you know. My father was with me, Shamil was with me, Muhammad was with me. Of course, Javier Mendez, Mexican lion, was with me, you know. It's like, they give me so much energy.
At this point, he was on top of the world, still undefeated, tying the record for most defenses at lightweight. Khabib was out to build a legacy, and he was succeeding. Shortly after, McGregor announced his return to MMA. Close to 1.5 years after his setback against his foe, he returned at UFC 246, where he faced Donald Cerrone. Now, it would be unfair to say that Cowboy was a tune-up fight, as the American was always game, even though he never really reached the top. But Conor dealt with him with significant ease, finishing him with strikes in the very first round. Nonetheless, the Notorious was back, and everything was pointing to him getting another title shot that year.
The who doesn't matter for me now. It's just, I'm looking at dates now, and I know March was there, and I'm going to have a look at a calendar and see where we're at. And
he claimed he wanted to stay active in 2020, and we had little reason to doubt him. But when the pandemic hit and travel restrictions followed, all of the UFC's plans fell apart. And while the pandemic froze the sport, something far worse was coming for Khabib. In July 2020, at the height of the pandemic, the MMA world was shaken by tragic news. Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, Khabib's father and the man responsible for the Dagestani revolution in MMA, had passed away.
When you have somebody that is such a powerful figure in your life like Khabib's dad was, but then it even superseded over Khabib. It went to the nephews in the family, but then it even superseded over relatives. And it went to boys within the village, within the community that didn't have anywhere else to go, that needed somebody. And it wasn't about the punches and kicks. I appreciate that Mr. Nurmagomedov became Coach Nurmagomedov. I appreciate that very much. But that's never the game that a coach is really playing. The great coaches are there to mentor.
Needless to say, the loss shook Khabib to his core. Abdulmanap had been with him since day one, and without him, the story suddenly felt different, emptier. His father had a plan for his career. He wanted his son to reach the undefeated record of 30-0 before retiring. What Khabib never imagined, however, was that he would be gone before that ever happened. Still, he endured. He booked one more fight against Justin Gaethje, scheduled for UFC 254 in October of 2020. Losing a parent is devastating under any circumstances entirely.
How difficult is it for you to prepare to the fight without him and knowing that he's not going to be in your corner?
I don't understand when people ask me how difficult for you train without father. Of course this is difficult. I don't understand why you guys keep asking me this. This is very difficult, you know. What do you think? You have your father?
Yeah, of course.
Do you have father?
Yes, I do.
Yes, if something happened with him, what do you think? It's gonna be difficult for you or easy?
Yeah, obviously it's very difficult.
The day finally came, and despite mourning his father, he stepped into the octagon to face Justin Gaethje for the lightweight title. Fans could feel the tension that the fight carried that night. The legacy he worked so hard to achieve was never solely his own, as it also belonged to Abdulmanap. And now, on his own, he had to defend it one last time. Despite looking a bit more hittable in the first round, eating a handful of leg kicks courtesy of Justin Gaethje, Khabib eventually dominated in the second. He finished his opponent with a triangle choke, and in the post-fight interview, he made a shocking announcement.
After Nurmagomedov won, he gets his hand raised and he gets interviewed and says to UFC commentator John Anik that he is done. He is retired. This is his last fight. He will not fight anymore without his father in his corner. And as you may or may not know, his father, Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, passed away this year due to essentially complications from COVID-19.
And just like that, one of the most spectacular careers in the history of the combat sports came to an end. After Abdulmanap passed, Khabib's mother made him promise he wouldn't continue fighting without his father by his side. In a cruel twist of fate, he had become a professional fighter to fulfill his father's dream, and now walked away from the sport to honor his mother's wishes. Hanging up the gloves right now meant no McGregor rematch, and leaving tens of millions of dollars on the table. But that mattered little for Khabib, and as for McGregor, we would soon learn that his exit from the sport would not be so graceful. Only a few months after Khabib's retirement, McGregor announced his next fight against a familiar foe. And with the former champ now out of the picture, the road to another belt seemed even closer. Dustin Poirier, whom Conor had knocked out years earlier, was now scheduled to face him again at UFC 257. And the man who'd built his career on brash insults and trash talk approached this fight with a noticeably more mature demeanor.
Dustin has put on an incredible run since our last fight. It's been a long time coming. Yes, I did get the win over him the first time. But you know, he's rose right up and he's back up there at the top of the division, so I'm excited to go and compete with him again.
McGregor pledged $500,000 to Poirier's charity. The two even shared a cordial moment at the weigh-ins, where Poirier gifted him a bottle of his signature hot sauce.
Yes, for the hair.
And when the two met inside the cage, it looked like we would see a rerun of their first fight. Conor came off strong, landing several combinations on Poirier and winning the round on the judges' scorecards. However, Poirier was disciplined. He kept landing calf kicks throughout the entire fight, and that paid dividends later. In the second round, momentum started to shift. Midway through, Poirier sensed McGregor was hobbled. He backed the Notorious against the fence and unleashed a fierce combination of punches, dropping him with a right hook before finishing the fight.
McGregor got beat by a better guy, and that's still true. Let's not waste too much time talking about McGregor when this is Poirier's damn time.
Right.
He got beat by an all-time great guy who figured him out and came around after a slowish start.
There was a valid argument that McGregor's long stretches of inactivity, the endless parties, and the distractions outside the cage had taken their toll. Back then, calf kicks were still a relatively new and developing technique in MMA. Given all the time off, the game could very well have moved past him. Still, with the rivalry deadlocked at 1 apiece, the UFC quickly arranged a trilogy fight to put an end to the debate. Sure, Conor was friendly in the last fight, but struggling with defeat, plus a story that had stiffed his promise to donate to Poirier's charity, rekindled the brash and disrespectful McGregor.
I don't give a about him, to be honest. I don't give a rat's ass about him. He's Buster Douglas. He's Buster Douglas is what he is. And that's the way he's going to go down. He's going to be known for that. It was a fluke win. and I'm going to correct it on Saturday night.
In fact, perhaps for the first time in his UFC career, his back really was against the wall. Another loss would certainly fuel the narrative that McGregor was washed. Not getting any younger, Conor risked going from the most popular fighter in the world to simply a has-been.
Right. Oh, I said I'm going to take him out in a stretcher. He's going out in a stretcher in this fight. What round, sir? You'll pay to see that.
But his performance at Fight Night only corroborated the growing doubts. After spending most of the first round on his back, McGregor got up only to break his left leg in half in one of the most gruesome freak injuries we've seen in the octagon. Despite having his foot dangling below the ankle, Conor was mostly furious about the outcome. Far from being graceful in defeat, he continued to disrespect Poirier, going as far as to utter the now infamous line, "Your wife is in me DMs." During the build-up, Mystic Mac predicted that his opponent would leave the fight on a stretcher. On that note, he was partially correct. Khabib retired, Poirier went on to fight for titles, and for Conor, he entered what is likely the darkest period of his career. The feud between Conor and Khabib was by far the biggest and most influential we've ever had in the sport. Khabib appears to have moved on. Nowadays, he has taken on the role left by his father as coach and mentor for Dagestani athletes. But that's not to say he doesn't still carry a grudge against his former opponent.
He won't say his name still today. He still does not say his name.
Because of what he said about his religion and about his dad.
He still won't say his name. Last week he did an interview in New York. He says this guy, he'll never say his name. He hates him.
As for Conor, it's safe to say he shares the same feeling. He always seemed bothered with the fact that Khabib retired before getting a rematch. As the most successful fighter in history, now being able to get that back is probably a tough pill to swallow.
He's always had retirement on his mind. Doesn't really want to be in there too much, I don't think. So, it is what it is. He said he had a conversation with his mother and talked to her for 3 days, so it is what it is. I couldn't give a f***, you know?
There must be a slight tinge of disappointment though, not being able to avenge.
Nah, it will happen. I don't believe it. So, I'm good.
However, he continued to challenge and disrespect Khabib on social media, and in every interview his name popped up. And things took an even darker turn. When Nurmagomedov congratulated Poirier on the win, he took a light jab at how evil his former opponent was. And Conor fired back with what is widely considered the most over-the-line tweet of his career.
You know, only evil can talk about your father, like wife, kids, religion. Like, if you're normal, like human, you're never gonna talk about this stuff, you know? Like, for me, it's like I think he posted this tweet like drunk too much or do something. Yeah. And the next day, I think, and he always deleted his tweet. And I think when he become on normal life, and he said, oh, what I did, and he deleted.
The following years have been rough on McGregor. Suddenly he looked unrecognizable. No one exactly knows why, but his focus drifted away from competition and into something else.
Floyd, you little you're right, you're doing bad conversations, trying to get a boxing match at 155. Fight me my way. I'm the A side. You owe your out. Bare knuckle. McGregor Mayweather, 170 pounds. Let's go, baby.
He still had several businesses going on. From buying a stake in BKFC to starring in action films, he definitely kept busy. But he was often seen partying, drinking, and indulging in a wild lifestyle. Around that same time, many fans believed he was abusing substances.
I'm blessed to have entered into the movie alongside him. He was patient with me. He gave me guidance, and I just took it.
Just when it seemed things couldn't get any worse, a new story dropped. Artem Lobov, his longtime friend and quite honestly the main reason why the rivalry with Khabib had even started, was suing him for millions of dollars. He allegedly came up with the idea for Proper 12 whiskey, and according to him, McGregor shook his hand on a 5% stake in the company. So when it sold for $600 million years later, Artem wanted his share of the pie.
Me, Conor's brother, the guy that brought this deal to the table, you know what I mean, and was always loyal, never took a cent from Conor, and he wouldn't pay me my share, you know, as was promised. I put the biggest piece of meat on Conor's table, and he wouldn't cut me a tiny little slice so my family could eat too.
For Conor, a man who always talked about the importance of loyalty, this had to hurt. Artem was equally disappointed in him, as he mentioned in several interviews how much McGregor had changed. The lawsuit ended in 2026. Both parties reached a settlement, granting Lobov an undisclosed sum. In a weird way, the fallout between the two former friends takes this entire story to a full circle.
You help down and bring someone up and rise someone up, and then when they're there, they do, let's say the hand comes out again. And then, okay, for me, no problem, I'll do it again, I'll do it. But then after a while, it's like, I can't keep doing this. Because people become a dead weight, and then they begin to drag you down.
When all is said and done, this rivalry will go down in history as one of the most dramatic and polarizing sagas the UFC has ever seen. Each of them represented great things for the sport. Conor revolutionized the marketing and promotional aspect of the game, and Khabib showed the world how respect and discipline could also lead to great success. Deep down, it was a collision between two completely opposed ideas of what a fighter is supposed to be, and the result was an unforgettable chapter in the sport.
На самом деле его простили?
Да.
Вот абсолютно.
Вот понимаете, вот...
За те оскорбления. Вот.
Нет, это все в прошлом. Нельзя останавливаться, жизнь продолжается.
This one took a while to put together. If you enjoyed it, subscribing goes a long way. And if you want more, check out our deep dive on Alex Pereira, one of the scariest knockout artists of the modern era, and how he keeps defying the odds.